Hi, Nikkya. Thank you so much for joining me. You are my second interview on the podcast.
Hi.
Um,
Well, thank
and
you for having me.
yeah, of course. I really appreciate our mutual friend Goetti who introduced us. And, I crossed paths with you. I saw your book, I read it, and it was a tearjerker, so many emotions. But I felt so happy with how you closed it out. I don't want to give too much away, but it just felt right. It just felt like it ended how it should for that point in time. So, thank you for the privilege of letting me in, letting us in. It felt really intimate to read it. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you because I know you want to provide an excerpt from chapter 4. So yeah, let's jump right in.
Well, thank you for having me. I am honored to be guest number two. Uh, and, life doesn't always give you what you want, right? And it
Yeah,
has a way of giving you what you need, and you don't really know you need it until you have it for some time. And so
yeah,
I am very grateful that this book is out in the world. And it has been something, yes, it's a memoir, and yes, it's my story, but what I hope is that when readers get to the last page that they will understand that they too can have hope. And for me, hope, faith, um, both of those things got me through the most challenging times in my life. And so I am going to read a piece from chapter 4. For those of you who don't know what the book is about, it is a memoir. It is the story of my journey to motherhood, having received the gift of mothering my half brother.
mhm,
Biologically, he is my half brother, but in all other forms, he is my son. Biology does not have precedence over what is in my heart, and his. So it's the story of our journey and how we became a family, allowing love to conquer all throughout. And I am reading from chapter 4, which is the first night home from the hospital.
mhm.
Jonathan was born in November and came home in December. And he was in my care from his very first night home from the hospital. And so that
Okay.
is where I'm going to bring you all in. On our first night home from the hospital, I had no idea what to expect. Lady helped me, of course, showing me how to open the tiny flaps of a newborn baby's diaper and how to avoid confusing the front with the back. She pointed out where the blue line would appear in the diaper, indicating Jonathan had peed, told me the sure sign of a bowel movement would be the smell. I needed all 5 of my senses on duty. As we sat side by side in her dimly lit kitchen, she taught me how to prepare Jonathan's bottle. With each movement, I heard the white linoleum floor creak beneath our feet. Her instructions were given quickly, in keeping with the bluntness of her personality, and her words came through with the confidence of a mother who'd done all of this many, many times. If he wakes up at night, make sure you don't put him in the bed with you. Make sure you don't put his diaper on too tight. You cannot sleep deeply because you won't hear him cry. Those first few nights, Jonathan didn't need much more than someone he could count on to feed him, bathe him, clothe him, and keep him safe. My confidence grew with each passing day, while my role in his life went from caregiver to something more. I knew how to attend to his basic needs, but inside, I was conflicted about allowing myself to fully feel like his mother, because his biological mother was very much alive. Even before he'd been released from the hospital, everything in his short life was already complicated. Child Protective Services, my family, everyone had an opinion about who this tiny baby boy should live with, including me. I wanted him, but nothing about his future could be settled permanently until a decision by CPS about whether my mother could be sober and prove herself capable. So, really, at least for now, he legally belonged to the state, even if it was temporary, I hoped.
I remember reading chapter 4 and just kind of, you'd already like been so open with like everything you've been through, your childhood, your relationship with your mom. And I was just like, what what is in the future for you as far as now being the guardian of this young boy? Um, and did you intend for the book to read like a novel? Because very often I would forget that I was reading your life story. I was thinking of you as a character and then Jonathan as your character. So I'm curious if there was intention with that.
Yes,
Okay.
I read many memoirs, as most memoirs do, and what I didn't want the reader to be caught in some sort of long descriptive scene about
Mm,
one particular event, and I wanted it to flow as quickly as it did because I wanted the reader to keep keep up the speed in which I
yeah.
felt like I was going through this experience from Jonathan's birth to my mother's death to
Hmm.
custody. Like it all felt very fast, and that's in some
Hmm.
ways how I wanted the book to read, in slowing down in spaces where I wanted the feeling to really sink in with the reader.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted it to read like a novel because sometimes that's how our lives feel,
Yeah.
too.
Like a whole movie.
Whole movie. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's important, or at least I'm the kind of reader who wants to get on with the story. I
Hmm.
want to find out what happens at the end.
Yeah.
So that's why one, my book is on the shorter side, in terms of number of pages, but also that is why the story reads as it does.
Okay. Okay. That's great to know. I'm curious too. So you end the book where Jonathan is 8 years old. Um, and you guys kind of become a family officially. How has it been to see him grow from then to now? Because based off of my math, he must be like 17, 18. So at least 10 years have passed at this
Yeah, good job with your math. So
point.
he is 18. He turned
Okay.
18 this year, or
Mhm.
2024. He turned 18 on Thanksgiving Day, and he is doing well, given the trauma that is I think clearly defined in the book.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you know, I read a piece I just read from um, our very first night home from the hospital, and
Yeah.
if you fast forward to you know November 28th, 2024, when he turned 18, it seems that it was so fast, right? Like that he became a
Yeah.
teenager and a young man so fast. But when we're going through it, it didn't feel like that, right?
Yeah.
We had everything from him going to preschool and kindergarten, and we had those milestones, and then his diagnosis, or diagnoses of autism and ADHD and anxiety, and the transition to middle school, and then it's just been a very lengthy 18 years, and parenting doesn't end when they go off to college. It
Mhm.
changes for sure, but he is 18, and my wife and I are very proud of the young man that he is continuing to grow into.
Yeah.
Um, he has a very loving heart, and he has a very beautiful gift of song.
Oh.
Um, he is in a musical theater program, and so this is his first year um, in the program. He wants to find himself on Broadway. So that is the dream we are supporting him with.
I love it. Okay. Okay. So I think this is a good segue because you did mention in the book and just now, him being diagnosed with ADHD, with autism. I know based off of how you kind of shared the process in the book, it was kind of harder for you to come to terms with this being his reality versus your wife, Danishka. So I want to kind of dive into that a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
How has that process been for you from that point to now? You know,
Yeah,
kind of helping him get the resources he needs, work with his diagnosis, kind of live through that day to day and what that's like for you.
yeah. So Danushka and I are very much hands-on parents. And I say that
Mhm.
as parents who, reach out to the teachers in advance, have a conversation
Yeah.
with them, reach out to the principal just to be like, hey, this is our family, this is who we are, and these are some of the pieces we are working on as a whole, because it's not just Jonathan going having these diagnoses. It's a family experience. Though inside of our home, it didn't always feel like that because I was in denial for quite some time that Jonathan would be given such burdens as these three diagnoses, knowing that he already had a challenging birth experience. Um, and then his biological mother dying. Like there were all these things that I kept thinking about that have happened to him and us, and I didn't want three new labels put on him. A black boy. He has two moms. There are a whole list of things, and for me, I was just so deeply embedded in the dream that I had for him to have this uncomplicated life future
Yeah.
after all the
Yeah.
complications. And so um it took a lot of hard work on my wife's part to be like, this is what I'm seeing. My wife was a sixth grade teacher and
Hmm.
trained in elementary education, and so she had that perspective. And my background was in counseling, and so we both came at it in different ways. My wife being very much like, you know these are the three things we need to do. And I'm
Yeah.
just saying, well, just hold on a minute. Like, let's give him another year. Let's wait and see what happens. I explain in the book his preschool experience, and then going into kindergarten. And I share a story of his kindergarten teacher who was sort of like, hey, he's not using his imagination like other kids are using their imagination, and he doesn't know how to engage in an individual play um, as other kindergartners do. And so that was sort of red flag number two, because the first was my wife saying, "Hey, he's throwing Legos across the room, and he's not really sitting here building anything with the Legos." And so, you know, um, so it took some time, and by some time, I mean, I think it was about a year that we went back and forth and ended up getting him diagnosed. I believe he was 8 as well. Lots happened when he was 8, and so
Yeah.
we went ahead and got him evaluated, um, and then from there it was like, okay, we're gonna educate ourselves about what autism really means, because we knew but we didn't know. And Jonathan does not present like other kids on the spectrum, and some other kids don't present like he does. And so one would not say, oh yes, I see something is going on with him just by looking at him. And there are some folks on the spectrum who you might be able to say that.
Yeah.
And so we had to battle that too, because people would be like, oh, he's just being defiant, or he's just doing this, or just doing that. And so we had
Yeah.
to be the ones to define it for them. And so now, now that he's in college, nothing has changed so much in terms of us advocating for him. I think that is a um, strong approach that Dinushka and I have certainly what's the word we've certainly done a fabulous job in of of
Hmm.
finding the contacts we need to find at any particular school he's at, starting that conversation with them, whether it's a guidance counselors, teachers always.
Yeah.
And then if we need to speak to the principal or director, we do that. Um, it's about finding, for me, for us, it's about finding the resources that we think he needs, because
Hmm.
Jonathan doesn't always know what he needs. So,
Yeah.
so we are the folks who say, hey, this is going to help you in the long run. Even if you don't understand it now, you'll see the benefit later. Um, and so the last thing I'll say, Jonathan's 18 now, and he has made the decision to not take medications anymore.
Okay.
And the medications that was he was on were for his anxiety and his ADHD, and he is someone who just didn't want to be on medication. And I'm sort of the same way. Like, I don't want to be on medication.
Hmm.
For me, I see the benefit, and so I stick with it. But he didn't see the
Yeah.
benefit, and um, so that was a choice that he made, and a choice that we, as his parents, now that he's 18, have to support, because
Yeah.
he has the right to not take it. And so we have grown with him along the way, and um, supported him when he needs it. And I will say, for me, he's our firstborn kid, and so, did we do everything correctly? Do we do everything correctly? No, but we do love him, and that is what drives us every single day, because we love him as he is, and he is our
Yeah.
son. And so the things that come from raising a teenager, we are experiencing, and
Yeah.
I for me, that reminds me that we've done all the things correctly as we knew how to do them,
Yeah.
because we are very proud of him.
Okay. Thank you. I think this is also a good segue to the next question I had. I feel like there's a theme of family in the book and the different iterations of family. Your relationship with your mother, who is as close to family as it can get as far as the biological connection, but the relationship is just so atypical to what you would expect a mother daughter relationship to be too. You do touch quickly on like the process of like, not really process, but just how you experience parentification because she calls you mama and you feel like you have to kind of be her guardian and her caretaker. You can't really be the child in the mother child relationship. So I think that's where the theme of family in the book starts to form. And then, you let us in more with your extended family, with your grandparents, with your aunts and uncles. Further, when you meet Danushka, when you are, in the, semi-permanent care of Jonathan, and then meet Danushka's family, and now you're introduced to this whole different kind of depth of the definition of family. And then you, Danushka, and Jonathan become your own official family. So I'm curious what your relationship to the concept of family is like now with how things are for you in present day. If that has changed since the book has ended and, what things look like for you now.
um, so since the book has ended, and I allude to it a little bit in the end, we have had two additional children. Um, we went through the IVF process and have now been gifted with 9-year-old twin daughters. They will turn 10 in July. Um, Jonathan Jonathan prayed for twins,
Oh.
the year before I got pregnant, and he got them. He did not get the boys that he wanted. He got two girls.
Maybe he wasn't specific enough.
He wasn't specific enough, exactly. But that's what he asked for Christmas one year, unbeknownst to me. And
Mhm.
our family has expanded with the girls, and then we recently uh, added two puppies to our family. So
Oh my
we have
god. The
two puppies.
cutest.
Yeah, they're cockapoos. They're so cute. They'll be 2 years old this summer. So that is that is the expansion part of our family. Um, and my idea of what makes a family has not changed. That has always been love for
Mhm.
me, because I was not raised in a traditional, mom and dad and
Yeah.
siblings kind of household. I was raised by my maternal grandparents, and I got to visit with my paternal family side every now and again, but there was nothing normal um, about my upbringing. And
Mhm.
that is what I was in search of when I decided to build my family. I wanted a normal family for me, really,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for the kids that I wanted to have. Um, of course, I am well aware that there's no such thing as normal, right? But normal in my eyes meant that we have two parents who bring all of themselves to the table and are present for their kids.
Yeah.
The bar wasn't super duper high, and so I am so grateful that that is what I've built, and we have, Danushka and I have a partnership and a marriage that was built on honesty from day one, because Danushka and I met online back in 2007, and we chose to not meet each other until we were 1 month into talking,
Mhm.
only via email. And so there were some phone calls in there as well, but everything we needed to say, we said up front from those very first emails. And so
Yeah.
we went into our relationship eyes wide open. She knew I wanted more kids. I knew she wanted to become a priest. There was nothing left out of our conversations. And that is something I'm also proud about, that we have built into our family. Of all conversations are possible. We just have to start somewhere. And so our kids come to us with everything,
Yeah.
literally everything. Even Jonathan, who, for a boy, some people are like, oh, boys don't share their feelings, and he will. He'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Mhm.
But we also invite them to talk to us about the
Yeah.
difficult things. Because for me, growing up, and I think Tanushka would say the same thing, for her growing up, talking about the difficult things wasn't always something our families were receptive to.
Yeah.
And so, as our kids get older, we certainly want to have more of those conversations with them. We ask them everything from, like, did you poop this week, to what's happening in your classroom? What's
Yeah.
the conversation like? And so, um, I am grateful that our family, definitely feels complete now after these two little puppies. Um, but we've built a strong community, both, with our queer family members, uh,
Mm.
and we built a very strong church community with our family there as well. So we don't limit what we call family, or who we call family, because family comes in many different forms,
Yeah.
outside of the one that we are born into. Um, so I don't know if I fully answered your question, but I think
No,
so.
it's great. Yeah. I feel like you definitely gave insight into the theme of family has not wavered. It's been persistent. It's there, but it has also evolved a little bit, just with time and life and the addition of your twins and the dogs and just how it kind of slowly expands.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. I think this is also a good segue into my next question because, there are a lot of same sex couples that would dream of starting their own family. And, you have done it successfully. So I'm curious if there's any advice you would give to a same sex couple that maybe is intimidated or scared or just don't really know where to start if they were to want to expand their family themselves.
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is, think about who you're living your life for.
Mm-hmm.
If you're scared to think about the way that you will bring a child into this world, um, maybe start there. Why is
Yeah.
that? Why do you feel scared um, to either have a child, if you can physically do so, or start the research of like, can I get a surrogate? Can I
Mm-hmm.
adopt? Is there kinship adoption? Is there a possibility of such? Can I foster? Like, there are so many ways someone can become a parent. Uh,
Yeah.
and I chose the right thing for myself second go around.
Mm-hmm.
Was to do IVF for me. And would I have chosen to become a parent in the way that I was chosen to become a parent? No, that wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have been my first choice. But saying yes to Jonathan and to the need that was there to keep him out of foster care, I would do over and over and over because that is that is what I wanted. I didn't want him to have to call a temporary home with strangers home.
Yeah.
So, um, for me, it always goes back to what do I want, And so I think for the queer listeners out there, ask yourself that question: what is it that you truly want? Is it a
Yeah.
family? Okay, then the way that you can become a family, there are many, many, many different ways. Um, I am someone who has always thought that I could do things on my own, that I didn't need help, I didn't need support, I didn't need anything because I am capable. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and if parenting has taught me anything, it's that I am grateful not to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids benefit from having two parents. Danushka and I are very different in terms of our parenting styles and things that we're comfortable with. I am not at all in touch with my inner child. Like, I do not get on the floor and like play, and I'm not generally a loud person. Whereas they have all of that in Danushka. Like, they have all
Mm-hmm.
of that. And so that's something that I'm more and more and more grateful for. But I also recognize that not every queer person has their person to
Yeah.
sort of plan life with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's okay too, because there are communities of people who have their chosen family, and those family members will show up for you when it is time for you to either go to that delivery room or stand up in court and adopt your child. There are people who will show up for you. So I would say, don't let fear of being single be something that holds you back. Now, not having enough money, that's a whole nother conversation, because those little things are cute, but they're expensive. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I think resource wise, just figuring that out. Um, but when you say you want a family, that comes with a lifetime commitment. And I'm grateful of the choices that I've made in conversation and in partnership with my wife. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the third thing I will say to listeners is, um, there's a commitment that I made along with Danushka, um, the day that we got married, and that was in front of our family. those
Yeah.
chosen and not, but we made a commitment to God, and that was to do right by the people who He brought in our lives. And so,
Mm,
Jonathan was a part of our wedding, our first wedding, and then we did a vow renewal on our 10-year anniversary, and our daughters were involved, and
mm,
we wanted them, all three of them, to see the love and the commitment that we have, you know, to being good people, raising good kids, and doing so with the help of God and our chosen family. So those are the three pieces I think I would want to share.
okay. Thank you. Um, Hopefully that helps, any listeners who may be embarking on a similar path or maybe know people who are and could share what you've, opened up to with us. Um, I'm curious if you're writing right now. Are there any possible new book or books on the horizon? Can you share? If not, that's okay.
I
But,
can share. There's no contract out there yet. So my first book, Mama, came out October 15th, 2024,
okay.
and I was in the, I don't know, first 24 hours or 48 hours of promoting it and doing all the social media things. And my daughters were helping me, and they opened the book and they're like, "Oh, can we read it?" And I'm like, "No, you're not old enough to read it yet." And so they read the first page, and the first page is like, you know, dedicated to Jonathan. And they
Mhm.
were like, "What? Why does he have a book and we don't
Oh
have
my
a book?"
god.
So I promised them that the next book they would have their own dedication page. And so I am
Okay.
working on a second book. It will be loosely about our IVF process. We did 2 rounds of IVF, and the first one did not take, and so there was another lengthy second attempt, and then we got two. And so it'll be loosely about that, but also about my diagnosis when I was in my 30s of complex PTSD,
Mm,
which is a diagnosis given to people who have dealt with a prolonged neglect,
yeah.
often in childhood. And so that is what book number two is about. And I'm dabbling with fiction. So this will be interesting. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
I might have another two books in me. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Okay. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to
Yes.
it whenever it's released to the world.
Sounds
So,
good to me.
yeah. So, I want to kind of round out the interview with just highlighting your bookstore in Stratford, Connecticut. You have a bookstore called Obodo Serendipity Books. So, tell us what inspired you or motivated you to open a bookstore. And yeah, what would you want listeners to know?
So I love the feeling when I walk into a bookstore. I just become incredibly calm um and I slow down. I feel my heart slow down, and I wanted I wanted to replicate that, honestly. And
Mm-hmm.
I live in a small town in Connecticut, and we don't have a bookstore. So our bookstore, Avoto Serendipity Books, is the only bookstore in town. Um, and I wanted to open a bookstore because bringing together community is something that runs through my veins, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something that um, my family on my biological family on both sides, my dad and my mom's sides, they've always worked for and within the community, and that is just something I'm living out. Um, I am someone who believes in the power of storytelling, and that all of our stories matter, even if we don't agree with how those stories are told um, or in what format. But I wanted a space where both diverse stories could be on the shelves, but also a space to bring together this community. And so the bookstore became the thing. And I tried to to launch a campaign in 2017, a fundraising campaign to get the bookstore off the ground, and it just wasn't the right time, um,
Mm.
personally or professionally. And 2024 was. So the bookstore was born and opened its doors on September 7th, 2024. My memoir came out on October 15th, 2024. And our 18-year-old, or then 17-year-old, moved into his college dorm on October 16th. So it was a
Wow.
very busy month and a half
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
late 2024. And I am incredibly happy. I joke a little bit that I'm emotionally and mentally um, filled to the brim, and financially, it's a hot mess because, opening a business and a bookstore,
Mhm.
I'm learning a lot. And um, the community has been very receptive, I will say. But on the flip side, learning as a business owner,
Yeah.
winter was really hard for bookstores, but also for small businesses. And I think
Mm.
particularly hard this 2024. But I have nothing to compare it to. But all of my small business owner friends have told me that this was a challenging winter. And so I'm very much looking forward to the spring and summer. Um,
Mhm.
we host an array of events from kids to adults. We have author talks, we have yoga happening at the bookshop. It's open for private events. We have lots of kid stuff happening. We have two story times a week. We have a monthly Sunday supper that we open to the community for a potluck meal. But we gather around the table and we talk. And so there is a lot happening. The local schools have also been very supportive and receptive, as well as our town civic leaders. We did a February event, Spread the Love of Reading, and our mayor came and read, and our police chief.
Wow.
So we had a lot of fun that month. Um, but we're happy, so happy to see what becomes, and what continues to be in the
Mhm.
bookstore. So I'm very happy with it. And again, I'm wholly satisfied with where
Mhm.
we are. Um, but we can always do more. And I'm all ears. I love to hear from our community.
So where can people find you? Where can they patronize your bookstore? How can they connect with you online? All the
Yeah,
things.
yeah. So I have two wonderful interns, and I'm very happy that I do because they help me with social media. So on the bookstore side of things, you can follow us on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, all under the same name, Abodo Serendipity Books. Um, Personally, you can find me at nikkiyamhargrove.com. I also have an Instagram page that you can follow me on there for all of the book news. Um,
Mhm.
I am, like I said, I am writing another book, so I might bring you along as the reader slash follower on Instagram as I delve into that, round two. Um,
Mhm.
I am working on being more active on social media. I will say that running a business by myself takes up a lot of my time. Um, but I do respond to messages. So if you want to drop me a message, you can definitely do that. But that is how you can find me. If you want to order a book, I am super flexible on how you do that. You can also DM me, but you can also go to the website, which is abodoserendipitybooks.com, and you can place an order there. You can support us on bookshop.org if you live, say, far away from Connecticut. And you can order a book through there. If you're an audiobook listener, you can log on to libro.fm and you can become a member, or you can purchase one or two audiobooks as you like, and check out our shop. And then with every purchase you make, we receive a piece of your purchase.
Okay. Well, I think this is a great way to end the episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a great time. I hope you did too. I feel like it was a really like substantive, rich conversation. Um, and yeah, is there anything else that you want listeners to know, or are we good?
I don't think I want anyone to know anything. I think I will just leave you with a sort of food for thought of, always um always have hope. That is what I will leave you with.
Yeah, when there's life, there's hope. So,
With hope. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to hearing from your listeners.
okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Nikia.
Thank you.